The signal from beyond. The emergency alert pierced through Elena Cowrey's apartment at 3:17 a.m., its shrill tone cutting through her dreamless sleep. As the chief xenolinguistic officer at Earth Central Command, middle-of-the-night calls weren't uncommon, but the urgency code attached to this one made her blood run cold. Priority Alpha, Colonial Fleet Emergency. Cowrey, she answered, her voice still thick with sleep. Admiral Zhang's holographic form materialized beside her bed, his usually composed features tense. "Doctor, we need you at Central immediately. The Pathfinder has returned." Elena felt the room spin. The ESS Pathfinder, her father's ship, lost without a trace 80 years ago during humanity's first deep space exploration mission into the Cygnus Arm. She had been only 6 years old when Captain Somni Cowrey and his crew of 37 disappeared. "That's impossible," she whispered. "The transponder codes match, and quantum authentication confirms it's the Pathfinder." "But Doctor," Zhang paused, his expression grim. "It's changed." 90 minutes later, Elena stood in Earth Central Command's observation deck, staring at the vessel through reinforced glass. What had once been a sleek exploration vessel now looked almost organic, its hull elongated and curved in ways that defied conventional engineering. Patches of an iridescent, metallic material covered sections of the ship, pulsing with a faint blue light that seemed to follow patterns too complex to discern. "It entered the solar system 3 hours ago," Zhang explained, standing beside her. "No communications, no response to hails. It navigated directly to Earth orbit and parked itself." He gestured to the view screen. "We've detected minimal power signatures, but the ship's systems appear operational. Atmosphere within is Earth normal." "Any life signs?" Elena asked, her voice barely audible. "None we can detect. No crew, no bodies." Zhang's expression softened slightly. "I know this is personal for you, Doctor, but you're the foremost expert on non-human communication systems. If whatever changed this ship left any messages, you're our best chance at understanding them." Elena nodded, taking a deep breath. "When do I board?" The boarding party consisted of Elena, 2 xenotechnology specialists, and 4 security personnel in adaptive combat suits. The Pathfinder's main airlock opened without resistance, almost as if expecting them. The interior was both familiar and alien. The basic layout matched the Pathfinder schematics, but the corridors seemed to flow rather than connect at right angles. The walls were covered with that same iridescent material from the hull, and intricate patterns were etched into every surface, symbols that resembled nothing in humanity's xenolinguistic database. "These patterns," Elena murmured, running a scanner over one section. "They're not static. They're changing, subtly, but definitely changing." The security lead, Lieutenant Ramos, shifted uncomfortably, like they're watching us. "Maybe not watching. Learning," Elena replied, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her personal connection to the ship. These could be a form of reactive communication. As they moved deeper into the vessel, the lighting shifted to a soft amber glow that seemed to follow their progress. The bridge, when they finally reached it, was nearly unrecognizable. The traditional command stations had been replaced by curved, organic-looking interfaces. At the center stood a column of the iridescent material, pulsing gently. Elena approached it carefully. The surface rippled as her hand neared, as if responding to her proximity. "This isn't like any technology we've encountered before. It's almost like it's alive," finished Dr. Okafor, one of the xenotechnology specialists. "The boundary between technology and biology has been completely dissolved here." Elena placed her palm against the column. The material felt warm, almost skin-like. The pulsing quickened, and the symbols throughout the bridge began to glow more intensely. "Dr. Cowrey, I don't think that's advisable," Lieutenant Ramos warned, raising his weapon slightly. But Elena couldn't pull away. The symbols were shifting faster now, reorganizing themselves before her eyes. And suddenly, she understood, not through language or translation, but through a flash of direct comprehension that bypassed all linguistic barriers. They found something out there, she whispered. Something ancient. Something waiting. The column beneath her hand flared with light, and a voice filled the bridge, not through speakers, but directly in their minds. It was synthetic but carried undertones that Elena recognized with a jolt that struck her to her core. Elena, my daughter, we've come home. The security team raised their weapons, and Dr. Okafor stumbled backward. But Elena remained frozen, her hand still on the column, tears forming in her eyes. Dad, she whispered. The column pulsed once more, and every screen on the bridge activated simultaneously. They showed images of deep space, of a massive structure orbiting a distant neutron star, angular, impossibly vast, and clearly artificial. Then the visuals shifted to the Pathfinder's crew encountering strange artifacts, touching symbols similar to those now covering the ship. We found them, Elena, the predecessors, the ones who came before all of us. They left, guardians, watchers, waiting for species ready to join them. Where are you? Elena asked, her voice breaking. Where's the crew? The column shifted beneath her hand, parts of it becoming transparent, revealing intricate networks of light and energy flowing within, almost like neural pathways. We are here. We've always been here. We've changed, Elena. Become something more. Something necessary. The images on the screens changed again, showing vast emptiness between galaxies, then something moving within that void. Something vast and dark. We've returned because you need to know. Need to prepare. They're coming, Elena. The ones the predecessors were watching for, and humanity must be ready. Elena felt a strange connection forming, knowledge transferring directly into her mind. Information about civilizations spanning millions of years, about transformations of consciousness, about threats from beyond the boundaries of known space. And through it all, she sensed her father's presence, altered but undeniably him. Dr. Corey. Lieutenant Ramos's voice seemed distant. Your nose is bleeding. Step away now. Elena couldn't move, transfixed by the flood of information and the presence of her long-lost father. The symbols on the walls pulsed in sequence, like a countdown. This is only the beginning. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. We've brought back what humanity needs to survive what's coming. But first, you must understand. The column suddenly erupted with light, engulfing Elena completely. The security team shouted, weapons raised, but could only watch as the xenolinguist stood motionless within the glow, her eyes wide, tears streaming down her face. When the light faded, Elena collapsed to her knees. Lieutenant Ramos rushed forward, but she raised a hand to stop him. I'm all right, she said, her voice different somehow. Steadier, more certain. She looked around the bridge with new recognition. And I understand now. She turned to face her team, her eyes reflecting the same subtle luminescence as the ship around them. The Pathfinder didn't just come back, she said quietly. It came back to warn us. And to save us. The guardians of humanity. Admiral Jung stared at Elena through the quarantine glass, his expression unreadable. Behind him stood the Joint Chiefs of Earth Defense and 3 representatives from the Colonial Security Council. So you're telling me, Jung said slowly, that the entire crew of the Pathfinder merged with some kind of alien consciousness, that they've been transformed into hybrid beings to serve as intermediaries between humanity and these predecessors. Elena nodded, perfectly calm despite being in isolation for the past 72 hours. Medical scans showed subtle changes in her neural pathways. Nothing dangerous, but definitely altered since her encounter on the Pathfinder. They didn't die out there, Admiral. They transcended. The predecessors left sentient technology throughout this sector of the galaxy, waiting, watching for species with potential. The Pathfinder found one of their nexus points. And your father? General Rivera asked skeptically. He's part of this ship now. He's more than that, Elena replied. They all are. They've become guardians. They've spent 80 years learning, preparing. What looks like alien technology to us is actually a bridge, a way for human-like consciousness to interface with something vastly different. Zhang exchanged glances with the others. Dr. Kari, you understand our concerns. You touch an alien artifact and suddenly claim to have information about ancient civilizations and cosmic threats. Information we can't verify. Elena sighed. She'd expected this response. I can prove it. Let me return to the Pathfinder. Absolutely not, Zhang replied immediately. Then let me show you. Elena raised her hand toward the observation window. The surface rippled slightly, and the lights in the quarantine chamber flickered. On the security monitors, strange symbols briefly appeared, the same patterns from the Pathfinder. The officials stepped back in alarm, security personnel raising weapons. I'm still me, Elena said calmly, but I've been upgraded to help you understand what's coming. 24 hours later, after extensive testing and debate, Elena was escorted back to the Pathfinder under heavy guard. The ship seemed to respond to her presence, interior lights brightening as she boarded. It recognizes you, Lieutenant Ramos observed nervously. It's more than recognition, Elena replied. It's connection. She led them directly to what had once been the engineering section. Now it housed a chamber unlike anything in human design, a spherical space with walls that seemed to shift between solid and energy states. This is what they wanted to show us, Elena said, approaching the center of the chamber. At her gesture, the room transformed. The walls became transparent, revealing what looked like suspended animation pods arranged in a circle around the chamber's perimeter. In each pod floated a human figure, but changed, integrated with the same iridescent material that covered the ship. The crew, Elena whispered, all 37 of them. The nearest pod's surface rippled, and the figure inside moved forward. As the material parted, Captain Sami Kari stepped out, or something that had once been him. His form was mostly human, but veins of the iridescent material ran through his skin, and his eyes shimmered with the same inner light that permeated the ship. The security team raised their weapons, but Elena stepped between them and her father. Dad, she said softly. Captain Kari smiled, a painfully human gesture on his transformed face. Elena, you've grown so much. His voice sounded almost normal, with just a slight resonant quality beneath the words. He turned to face Admiral Zhang, who had insisted on joining this expedition despite security protocols. Admiral, I apologize for our unconventional return. Zhang stared, speechless for perhaps the first time in his career. What happened to you? He finally asked. Evolution, Kari replied simply. We found a predecessor nexus around HD 219,134. It was waiting, dormant for millions of years. When we investigated, it recognized us, evaluated humanity through us. And it changed you, Zhang stated flatly. It offered us a choice, Kari corrected. We chose to become the bridge. Humanity has potential, Admiral. The predecessors saw it, but we're also vulnerable. Other pods began to open, more transformed crew members emerging. Each looked similar to Kari, mostly human but fundamentally altered. We've spent 80 years preparing, Kari continued, learning what the predecessors knew, integrating with their technology, becoming something that could serve as intermediaries. Intermediaries for what? Zhang demanded. Kari gestured, and the center of the room illuminated with a three-dimensional star map of the galaxy. A dark shadow moved through it, consuming light as it traveled. We call them the Void. They exist in the spaces between galaxies, drawn to developing civilizations like predators to prey. The predecessors fought them millions of years ago and created guardians to watch for their return. The map zoomed in, showing the shadow's trajectory directly toward Earth's sector of space. How long? Zhang asked, his military mind immediately grasping the tactical implications. 27 years until first contact, Kari replied. Not long enough for humanity to develop the technology to face them alone. But with our help, with the predecessor's legacy, there's a chance. Elena stepped forward. This is why I was changed, Admiral. To help translate, not just language, but concepts. The crew of the Pathfinder has returned as guardians, not as a threat. Zhang studied the transformed humans carefully. And if we refuse your help, then humanity faces extinction, Kauri said simply. The void consumes entire civilizations. Admiral, they've already taken 12 developing worlds on their approach to this sector. The chamber shifted again, showing images of planets being engulfed in darkness, entire star systems going dark. We're not asking permission to help humanity survive, Kauri continued. We're asking for partnership. The predecessors chose humans for a reason, our adaptability, our determination. But we need to evolve, and quickly. Elena moved to stand beside her father, the subtle glow in her eyes matching his. What he's saying is true, Admiral. I've seen it, felt it. This isn't invasion or subversion. It's transcendence. The next step for humanity. John was silent for a long moment. You're talking about transforming our entire species. No, Kauri shook his head. We're talking about creating guardians, volunteers who can interface with predecessor technology, who can help humanity develop defenses. Most humans will remain unchanged, but we need some to bridge the gap. Like Elena, Zhang observed. I made my choice, Elena said firmly. Others should have that same choice. Zhang looked around at the transformed crew, at the advanced technology surrounding them, at the star map showing the approaching threat. If what you're saying is true, he said slowly, this changes everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe. It does, Kauri agreed. But it also confirms what humanity has always suspected, that we're not alone, and that our potential is greater than we ever imagined. As if responding to his words, the Pathfinder hummed to life around them. Systems activating throughout the vessel. The transformed crew members returned to their stations, moving with fluid grace. We've brought back everything humanity needs, Kauri said. Knowledge, technology, a purpose. The Pathfinder isn't just a ship anymore, it's a beacon. The first of many that will stand against the dark. Elena felt the connection between herself, her father, the ship, and something vast beyond. The echoes of the predecessor's consciousness, guiding them toward a future where humanity would take its place among the guardians of the galaxy. You've been fighting to protect Earth from threats for decades, Admiral, she said quietly to Zhang. This is no different, just on a scale we never imagined. Zhang looked at her, then back at the approaching darkness on the star map. I'll need to convince the Council, he said finally. They won't like it. They don't have to like it, Kauri replied. They just have to survive it. We all do. The transformed crew of the Pathfinder stood together, guardians of a humanity that didn't yet understand the battle coming, or the legacy they were about to inherit from those who had traveled the stars millions of years before them. And beyond Earth, in the void between galaxies, something ancient and hungry continued its inexorable approach. The end.